Hey everyone, it's Andres, and I'm gonna have a casual review of the BlackBerry Key2 Elite. Now, I have 5 pros and 5 cons I want to share with you, and ultimately it'll be up to you to see which of those pros or cons weighs more, and that'll determine whether this phone is worth picking up. Now, for someone like me, then you would know that I actually don't get the high spec device just for the heck of it. I get it because that's exactly what I need to run through different operations, and I really run a lot of it through my phone communications, email, documentation, pictures, a lot of media, honestly, not just pictures that's run through my devices. So, camera is important. The speed of the processor is very important. Its ability to handle multitasks is really, really important. So, with all that prefaced, you already know, as I did, when I went to pick this guy up, I knew that this was going to have a hard time keeping up with my needs. But still, I wanted to give it a go, particularly because communication is still the most important aspect of a device. And communication is what BlackBerry does best. But let's dive right into it. The 5 pros. I want to start off with the design. Look, this phone is light yet durable. Even though it's a polycarbonate build, it's very well built, and the fact that it's got every feature you need, nothing you don't, that's actually really cool that you can still get it in a budget package. So the design itself, the tactility of the keys, it's really, really well done. The button placement, it's on the sides with everything just being on one hand, and of course the textured back in a sea of glass. Anything that's textured in the back, not just for it not to pick up fingerprints, but for that to slip out of your hand, that's a big deal. So of course they thought about that when they designed the phone, just like they did with the BlackBerry Key 2 and the BlackBerry Key 1. And I just gotta say, this what is up with Red and me? But this thing was just like begging me, it's like, buy me. And it's like, well, fine, I picked you up because it's something about the red. And here's the funny thing: red is not even in my top 5 favorite colors, but for some reason on the phone, it just looks fantastic. But anyway, that's the design. Let's move on to the keyboard. I already touched on that. The keyboard itself, that's a very smart thing for BlackBerry to continuously improve. How they kept improving it, I must say, it's a wonder how they keep that up. And of course, that speed key, here's the thing: when you're so used to typing on glass for so long and you forget about the shortcuts that are afforded to you by a physical keyboard, going back to it and having to rediscover that was really amazing, to be able to jump from one app to another. And I really did like all that, I guess, shortcut affordability that's provided by a physical keyboard that cannot be duplicated by a digital keyboard. All right, the next thing up is the battery. Yes, this is the scaled down battery from the BlackBerry Key 2, but it's still enough to get you by, especially for the entry level device that this is. But I have to admit, this thing wasn't keeping up with me on a day. I was really pushing it hard, but then again, not every single day I'm going to be hotspotting for 3 hours. So I was using the hotspot at an event, and I hotspotted for nearly 3 hours while simultaneously recording the entire event via the voice recorder on this. So that's where the battery drainage took place. So of course your mileage will vary depending on what you're doing. If you're gonna use it for basic stuff, sure. This thing is not a gaming phone, so you shouldn't be pushing it that hard. But if you're like me and you're gonna be out in business events and you rely on the battery a lot, then yes, this phone was not gonna last me through halfway through the event because I was not gonna rely on public Wi-Fi. I'm too paranoid to try that, especially after the attempted hacking that happened to me over the winter of 2018. All right, next thing up, USB Type C. We're applauding this obviously all the time wherever we see it because it's the future. And even on a budget device, we have USB Type C and quick charge through it. So that's another plus. So way to go, BlackBerry, in that respect, to make sure the USB Type C is on their devices, making them basically future proof. And as a little bonus, of course, the headphone jack up here. Now, of course, the bread and butter, what makes a BlackBerry, and that's the security and productivity suite. I don't need to go over that again. I'm sure you heard that ad nauseum from everywhere else, including BlackBerry's website, so you know about that. I'm just letting you know that's one of the pros here. That's what you're getting when you're getting a BlackBerry. You're not getting the fastest updates. You're not going to be getting the latest security patch because this thing's running in November, and BlackBerry's only going to push out the ones it feels it's necessary because they're so confident in their, I guess, hardening of the kernel and their security that you don't need Google's latest updates to make sure your device is secure. To me, that's just sound like gobbledygook, and they're just being lazy to push it out. But whatever, it's still a secure device. That's fine by me. They're still ahead of a bunch of other devices out there anyway. But let's move on to the cons. Have you noticed that I haven't really showed you anything on the display of this phone? That's because there really isn't anything for me to show you. Bummer. I'm sorry, because I wiped this phone again. There was so many times in the past week of usage where I just gave up on the phone, wiped it clean, and said, you know what, I'm just done with this phone. I'm going to pass it on. And then I'm like, oh, I just need to use that keyboard again. So I picked it up and just restored everything. Then after a while, a few days of use, oh my goodness, I wiped this guy for the fourth time because I said, that's it. So it's been 2 days since I wiped it, and I haven't gone back to it, resisting the urge to power it back up because I know it's going to happen. If you've seen MKBHD's video of is the OnePlus 6 better than the Pixel 3 XL, that's my exact dilemma whenever I use devices. It's an ongoing struggle even to 2019. I don't see that changing anytime now. That's just the way things go, but that's what I'm getting at. That's exactly what I feel whenever I'm using this, because when you're only relying on flagship devices, then of course anything with lesser specs, you're gonna notice it. And this one, man, it was hard to ignore. The problem with the internal specs, and this kind of goes into point number 2, but I'll get into more details in number 2, is that the camera, for example, being one of the most RAM intensive apps on any device, it was either a hit or miss, and it annoyed me because whether I was using the selfie cam or the rear cam, even after a fresh restart, the phone would the app itself would just crash and it wouldn't take a picture, and I would lose those moments. I was testing this with my son and I missed out a lot of moments with him by simple virtue of the app kept crashing. Like, oh my goodness, what is going on? And it happened to me again the next day after a fresh restart, and I had to use the camera, and the camera app just crashed. Which leads me to con number 2, the camera itself. Look, we know that the cameras are less than subpar on a budget device, but I felt that BlackBerry just really just slapped some cameras on here and just said, you know what, at least they have cameras, and we're gonna call it telephoto lenses because there's dual camera setup in the back. I'm like, are you for real? It's like, okay, you have dual cams. That doesn't mean it's anything special. And the fact that BlackBerry's website, BlackBerryMobile.com's website says take stunning selfies with the front-facing camera with those washed out photos, I don't know what they're talking about. That's just terrible marketing, and honestly, someone should call them out for false advertising because that is not the case. Number 3, the display. I think this also applies to the BlackBerry Key2 proper. The display is supposed to be the same. It's a 1080p display on this 4.5 inch. There's nothing special to write home about. Some have said it's dimmer than the Key 1. And for those that use the Key 1 would know that the screen on that one was already pretty dim. My gripes have been more with the actual responsiveness of the display. When you would double tap the screen, it would take about 2 seconds for the screen to wake up, like it's not responding. It's like, what? Well, why is that? Is it the specs? I don't know, but I didn't experience that kind of lag on the Key 1, and that's considering that thing has a less RAM than this one. So whatever. So the display is nothing to write home about, and neither is the speaker, which is unfortunate because when you blast the speaker, yeah, it's loud, but it's distorted. So that's as far as it goes. And the fact that it has 2 grills down here, one of them is actually the microphone, the other one's the speaker. They just went for symmetry here instead of, actually putting dual speakers here like they did on the BlackBerry Passport. But whatever. That's a missed opportunity. BlackBerry Key 2 and Key 1, same problem. BlackBerry Priv, same problem. So yeah. All right. I touched on this as a pro. Now I'm going to trash it as a con. Software support. This thing is promised to get Android Pie. When? A year from now? 2 years from now? I don't know, because BlackBerry is really, really slow. And the mere fact that I can't trust them to push out a software update puts them on league with Samsung. And that's saying something because Samsung's actually been improving their update cycles. And I used to use just HTCs because of their update cycles. But of course, because of their budget cuts and all that, the software updates and firmware updates took a hit. But with BlackBerry abandoning basically the CDMA version of the Key 1 for Android Oreo, that hurt. Like, you're joking, right? So what is it, $550, $600 for the CDMA version and no true software support? At least Verizon pushed out a software patch in January, but that doesn't add any features to it. Android Oreo, it is a step up from Android 7. So I do vouch for that operating system to be put into the BlackBerry Key 1 because they'll just make that battery last even longer. But unfortunately, BlackBerry is just not supporting that. Just like those poor CDMA users on Sprint, same thing. Not getting any updates on that respect. But hey, if they do push out an update, because you never know, that would be awesome. So those are my 5 pros and 5 cons on the BlackBerry Key2 LE. Notice that I didn't mention the price. So the price now is what I'll bring up because that's either the deal breaker here. It's either a positive thing that this thing is actually like $250 less than the Key2 proper, or it could hurt that you're still paying at least $450 for a device like this. And if you get the red one like this is the more premium version. Why? Just because it's a flashy red color? What makes the red more expensive? It's $500 without any discounts. So it's $500 for this. That's like OnePlus territory. Look at the OnePlus 6 itself, if they're still available. But that's my point, that around this side, you don't go into buying a BlackBerry for the latest in specs, but at the same time, you don't want to go and splurge on a device that is not going to be supported by the manufacturer for that long or much longer. That's the unfortunate part. So it really comes down to this. I don't want BlackBerry to be synonymous with compromise because honestly, hasn't that been the case for every single BlackBerry device that has been made in the past decade? Compromise here and a compromise there. BlackBerry Playbook, yeah, great device, secure kernel, but there's no apps for it. We don't have apps for that because, we don't really need it when you got the browser. Compromise. BlackBerry 10 devices, all right, they came out. They didn't have the latest in specs. They didn't have the best cameras. They have probably subpar cameras, but hey, it was a BlackBerry and it was a whole new thing, but it didn't have apps. Compromise. BlackBerry Priv, hey, best of all worlds. The internals were dated. The front camera was crap. And the keyboard that slides out was basically really cramped as well. And on top of that, you were paying beyond flagship price for that, $700+ for it. Compromise. BlackBerry Key 1, compromise. Key2, compromise. Key2 LE, many more compromises for less money. So I don't want that to be synonymous with BlackBerry, but that seems to be the case. But you don't go to buy a BlackBerry that has the latest and greatest in specs. To which my question to BlackBerry is, why not? Why not put the best on it? If you're going to charge that much, just go ahead and put the best on it. Stop making people feel like they have to compromise to get a BlackBerry. Let them be super proud of carrying a BlackBerry, not returning to the days of past where you had to carry a BlackBerry and an iPhone or Android to get what you were missing out on the BlackBerry. No, I feel like it's going back to those days because almost every single reviewer that sung the praises of the BlackBerry Key2 would also tell you they were carrying a second device. And the only way for me to be able to use this guy is to literally carry the second device. And I don't want to do that. If I was going to use just one, sorry folks, I can't recommend this phone. Unless you're shopping around that budget category and you're not running the phone as hard as someone like me is, then yes, this phone can keep up with you. Or just upgrade to the BlackBerry Key2. But the thing is, if you're going to be pushing your device really hard and you really depend on security like I do in a business where you deal with so much sensitive information, then sadly, I can't rely on a BlackBerry to get it done only. That's why I have to carry a second device. And that's the unfortunate part. BlackBerry, stop becoming synonymous with compromise. Hopefully the BlackBerry Key3 would be the home run that we're all begging for. Now, I don't expect a hardware like this that has so many buttons to be water resistant, but hey, if they accomplish that, more power to them. Until then, BlackBerry Key3, I'm hoping that thing is a big improvement. So those are my thoughts on the BlackBerry Key2 LE. I'm looking forward to the next generational device and see if that'll better fit my needs. Always crossing fingers, BlackBerry, come on. I miss you guys a lot, but you got to keep up with me now. All right, so I want to just quickly tell you an update as to what's happening now with the channel, because you probably noticed the banners have definitely changed and some more are changing along the way. The links have for sure changed, and there will be links down below for websites that are not yet live, but you're going to want to keep those links because once they go live, you're going to want to be in the know. So once all that is set in place, my show will be broadcast, and my tentative schedule for my newly rebooted The Andre Segovia show is March 29th. So I'm excited about the launch date. I've been working around it. My show is going to be across all podcast directories. It'll also be hosted here on this YouTube channel, but there'll be an occasional YouTube video accompanying it, hopefully twice a month. That's the show schedule as I intended. So you probably heard me right. Yes, that does mean there's going to be audio podcast on this channel with occasional videos. So there'll be other content generated for your listening pleasure. If you use YouTube Music, I believe you'll be able to also subscribe to me via there, so you'll see the feed via there, or at least listen to the feed via there. So my intent is, my new show is real estate news, talk, and tech for the real estate professional and the consumer alike. So even if you're not involved in real estate and whatsoever, there'll be something for you to take away as something of benefit to you, methodologies for success, and also just motivational, inspirational things that I want to impart to all of you. So I'm embracing my influencer role, bringing in everything that I enjoy doing into what I do for work to be able to help you. The show will be free to you to consume, so I'm excited to do that, and most of all, engage with you and be able to answer your questions as I begin to launch my show, and then eventually move on to live broadcast to also be able to do Q&A. I have interviews that I've done, and I got more interviews that I'm doing that I'll be showcasing on my show, stuff from people that can impart information that can definitely be beneficial to you. All right, so that's the skinny on the stuff that's going on. So all the social media links you can follow me are down below. Like, share, subscribe to stay in the know. Hit the bell also so you'll be in the know. And I have one more transitional video to do. What I mean by that is one of these videos where it's not branded the Andre Segovia Show, but it's not the newsreel anymore. So that is my take on the Apple Watch Series 4 LTE and the Apple iPhone XR, because that's the last tech that I want to share my mindset with you, and you also understand as to why a 10-year Android user is using an iPhone now. The flip is going on, and it's like it would be like a culture shock, you would think, but a lot's changed since the last time I touched an iPhone. That didn't even last me 24 hours in my hands because I couldn't take it. But a lot has changed. So I'll share my thoughts in that video. So it'll be the last one I'm doing in this transitional phase, because then I'll see how I can fit in tech reviews of that sort into my newly formatted program. Because yes, I will be doing tech walkthroughs, but it's mostly into the world that I live in and where I come from and how I consume the tech that hopefully you also relate to, especially if you're a small business owner. But anyway, that's for the future. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.